Hi everyone, it's Dr. Kimberly Ford. The purpose of this video is to introduce you to conducting some quantitative analysis using Jamovi. So I have downloaded this amazing data set from Kaggle. I will have some documentation that will be kind of a handout for the class where you can access this data set. But I have the data set open, and as you can see, it is a super rich data set. We've got it by employee ID, which, generally you may not want to have that because it's kind of PII or personally identifying information. But we're not really asking any questions here that would require us to be anonymous. But anyhow, so as you can see, we've got gender, age, their marital status, their job level. I won't read all of the columns for you, but there was a lot of demographic information gathered on the employees, such as their education level, how they even commute to work, and their commute distance. And then, of course, there's a ranking, and I've chosen to focus on stress. Now, there's also training hours, which is really cool, and their job satisfaction as well. But right now, I want to focus just on stress. So I have written a research question and hypotheses based on that. And I want to start small. I don't want to say, okay, I want to look at job stress based on their age, their department, their job satisfaction. Those are all fine and well. But usually you want to kind of start out to see where patterns emerge. So I kept my first question pretty simple. How does job level relate to reported stress levels among employees? And then, of course, I've got my null and my alternative hypothesis. And then, of course, in this document here, and I'll show you more in this document in a few minutes, but I describe my data source and where I got it and all that good stuff. So I'm going to open Jamovi. If you've used SPSS, Jamovi is extremely similar to SPSS, except that it's open source, so it's free to download from jamovi.org. What I need to do is I need to import my data set. So I've got a special import. Now what's really kind of cool is you can actually open SPSS files and other types of files here. But I'm going to do a special import. And I've got my employee survey right here. So boom, imported quickly and easily. I don't need these because they're empty. So I basically just held down the shift key and arrowed down. And I'm just going to delete these variables because they're empty. We don't need them. So as you can see, it pulled in my entire data set. So what I want to do now is I want to run a one-way ANOVA based on the job level and its influence on stress levels. So I've got my columns here in Jamovi. So job level, if you double click that, it drops down and you can look at the measure type. So as you can see, nominal, ordinal, continuous, and then an ID. In many cases, it's already kind of identified what kind of measure type it is. So for job level, we definitely want to keep it at nominal. But let's go over to stress. And I want to change this to continuous. So now I've got this more as a scale. Okay. And then you just click this arrow up and it closes all that. So that's as easy as pie for setting your variables. So now I'm going to go here to ANOVA and I'm going to do a one-way ANOVA. And what I want to do is, it already knows, so it starts to give me some results here, even though there's nothing there yet. But the minute that I choose my dependent variable, which is stress, and then my grouping variable is on the job, it automatically fills in the one-way ANOVA info. It's already calculated that. So I want a descriptives table. Let's do, I don't want the plot. Let's do some homogeneity and normality and QQ plot. And then I want to do the Tukey. So notice here that it gives me the output. Boom, I'm done. Well, I'm not really, but the data has been analyzed that quickly. So what you want to do is you take this, you copy in here and say all copy, and then you come to a Word document, and I already did that. I copied it here. So it just literally, and I'll just show you again. Let's blah, blah, blah. I just used Control V and nice. And it also provided me with these references that Jamovi will create because it used a package from R and so forth. So what's even nicer is the tables are closely formatted to APA. Of course, you have to fix those. But what I've got now, I'm going to pop up to this where I've got my results. And as you can see now, we'll get down into my approach. I want to say I am not 100% adhering to APA because this is a demonstration. But, you know, I did in some areas and so forth. So anyhow, I discussed my statistical approach. Again, I'm keeping it brief because this is a demonstration. But this is where the hard part comes in. Jamovi will give you the results, but you've got to interpret, and that's where some students have issues, and that's absolutely okay. So what I have provided here is just a brief discussion on the results, and that stress was measured on a continuous scale, and so forth. And then, of course, I've got a note under my table that the p-value is above the threshold of 0.5. Now we could change that too. You could change that in Jamovi, but as you can see, I've got my descriptives and then of course the interpretation. And again, I kept this very brief. I'm not going to get into the detail that you would in a dissertation, but I have my p-value where I've compared it. And made a discussion, and then also talked about the normality and the Levine's test and so forth. So in summary, I found that there was no significant difference in stress levels across the job level. So one of the reasons why I didn't go heavy into that, and like I said in the beginning of the video, is that you want to see where patterns start to emerge. So you may very well come over here to Jamovi, and what's really great about that is I can take this off and I could group it by age if I wanted to, and it's now going to wait. Yep, nope, wait, hang on. I got to go back over here. I'm going to move Jamovi over. We need to set age up as a continuous variable. Nope, that's not it. I don't want to do that. And then come back to here where I can drag this over, and in my ANOVA now I can see that I've got more information now, and I needed to take the Tukey test off, but I have more information to see what, you know, if age has something to do with it. So I've got my mean scores, my standard deviation, and so forth and so on. So that's the one really great thing about once you're working here with the one-way ANOVA is that you choose it, you choose what your dependent variable is, and then what you're going to group it on. So I'm going to stop here, and I'll do a two-way ANOVA for the next video.